The topic is photo and video for the medical practice. And how it's going to go down is like this. We're going to start by talking about the modern camera and how radically it has changed what you can do in a relatively low light office environment. We're going to talk about shooting people in proper setups. We've heard a lot about videos this last couple days, but really seen very few videos and talked very little about how do you create, the idea. Just people keep saying make videos. They don't really talk about how to make videos or how to shoot people. So we're going to really focus on shooting people, talking to people, getting people to open up. The third thing will be lighting. How do you tune into what's good light? The fourth thing will be production nuts and bolts of video testimonials, patient stories. This also covers the production nuts and bolts of creating a video where you're talking about your services, where your injector is talking about the 10 secrets to a great injection. Video testimonials will cover true production. After that, we're going to talk about marketing, like how do you use videos to radically improve your content across the board. The first thing I think is really critical is that if someone agrees to be in your website, to be part of your marketing, to be a before and after case, you owe it to your business to document that to the best of your ability. 2 lousy before and after shot against blue is fine, is good, but really people are compelled by stories. And there's massive social proof in a story, and there's massive social proof in a testimonial, and more Google is cataloging testimonials and cataloging reviews, and you're creating patient reviews when you do this. It's so obvious to me that this is like the future of medical marketing, and the tools are so easy. So make sure you're thinking to yourself, how can I best use this vocal proponent of my practice? Then the other thing is people are always like, you need to be writing blogs and you need to be updating your website, and yet they never talk about what's the best subject for a blog, and it's a patient story. It's someone's testimonial. It's someone's story about what happened. That we have clients, when we put a new case or a new video on the website, that day the site gets 200 visits. And that's radically different than a normal day, and it's because good content has real appeal to real people. And if you start taking better photos and taking better videos, you're suddenly got awesome content marketing for everything you do. All your marketing tools, your print, your website, everything looks better, everything performs better, and it lasts the life of your practice. So check this out.
So I wouldn't go to anyone else.
I wouldn't go anywhere else. I really wouldn't.
I loved working with Dr. Simon. Dr. Schmidt is amazing.
This practice is known as the gold standard in town.
So, kudos to Dr. Gross.
He is an excellent doctor.
It's because we're both really happy right now. I can still call him up and say, hey, I have a question, and he's there to answer.
Once you meet him, you're going to fall in love with him because she looks awesome.
Like, how cool is that? And how easy is that? And how compelling is that? And how much social proof is in that? Like, that's what marketing should look like. It's not a bunch of stock photos, and it's not a bunch of everyone's like, oh, I wrote Buckhead breast augmentation 30 times in this blog post. Like, you know why that doesn't work? Because that sucks. It's so boring. And yet, right in front of you is the building blocks of the coolest thing in your market if you just tune into it. So first and foremost is your phone has every bit enough camera and every bit enough audio to take amazing videos. So the tool in your pocket, the technology is already there. The next thing is, the next step up from that is these new high ISO cameras. Is you no longer have to depend on strobes and flashes with these new cameras, that they're so sensitive to light that you can shoot in a relatively low light environment and expect to have a dynamite result. The new Canon M, I shoot with desk lamps, and we get just breathtaking stuff, like portrait quality stuff, and it's because the cameras have come so far. That self-same camera shoots jaw-dropping video, and so for $300-400 you can have the camera that not only shoots a Dynamite clinical before and after, but shoots a superlative quality portrait, and then also shoots video that is every bit as good as a production quality camera that used to cost $600,000 15 years ago. The more expensive your lens, the less light you're going to need. So typically, as you look at cameras, the more you spend on a lens, the better. Good lenses almost always equate to lower light conditions, and it's a nice benefit to have. So that's the cameras, and you can do it with a phone. Most important thing to remember is that the phone that you have in your pocket is plenty of camera. Part 2, now we're going to talk about shooting people. You should sit people down. That this is true of taking pictures, this is true of doing interviews, that people tend to be more relaxed when they're seated, especially if you're taking pictures of them. Like, a lot of people freak out in front of cameras, so sitting them down and relaxing them is a very quick way to get a much better result. The next thing to know is that if you come in close with a wide angle camera, you're going to add pretty big time distortions to the face. Like, this is the difference on the left between a 28mm camera, which is pretty similar to a 35mm, which is what most little point and shoot cameras are. And then if you look at a 35mm or a 135 on the right, you get a much nicer portrait. So be aware that if you extend the lens as far as you can to shoot it as telephoto as it'll get, you'll get a much better quality portrait. That you don't get that. And if you look at people's before and afters, you see a lot of this wall-eyed, giant-nosed look. Here's another example. As the focal length, as you go more towards the telephoto end of the lens, you get a much more flattering portrait. So try to shoot, if you're shooting with a camera that has an extendable lens, shoot it as extended as you can. You'll get a better quality portrait. Try not to get too close. If you pull back and get a more atmospheric shot, you're going to get a less distorted shot. So your videos typically are going to be pretty good because you're pulling back to shoot the whole room. The person's, if it's horizontal, they're a small part of it on the right side. So something to be aware of is that as you come in close with a 35mm camera, you're going to get a lot of distortion. So make sure you're shooting people from a good enough distance not to whack them out too much. So the next piece of how to produce Dynamite videos is lighting. So every room has light. If you look around this room, you'll notice it's got kind of a yellow color cast. These lights are about 2500 Kelvin, and that's a yellow light. So that's how they rank light, is on a Kelvin scale from 1000 to 8000. Where you ideally want to be is daylight. That's 5600 Kelvin, and that's a very clear white light. You need to tune into what the color of light is, because light carries color with it, and that adds to the quality, the color quality of the photo, right? Color quality of the video. So if we were to shoot a video in this room, it would be pretty yellow. Shoot a video outside, it tends to be very balanced color-wise. If you shoot a video under fluorescent lights, it goes toward this blue spectrum. So the more you tune into what the color is and what's the solution, by and large, turn on more lights or use balanced light sources. So ambient light is what we need to dial into. Like, because we're not shooting with strobes, because we're not bringing in expensive lights, we need to shoot with the ambient light in the room. And again, every room has a color cast to it, and you need to figure out, okay, if I'm shooting this person, what lights do I want to put near them to get the best quality? And I find 2 desk lamps with 5600 Kelvin lights in them, which you can buy at Walmart. It's just a matter of not buying the cheapest bulbs you can find. There's nice daylight balanced ones. That's going to solve the bulk of your color issues with photos. If you've got a bright enough room, you can almost always shoot a really high quality shot. So this is what a 5600 Kelvin fluorescent looks like. Again, you can buy them at Walmart. They're daylight balanced. They don't get real hot. A couple of these are just figuring, if you're shooting in your office, take a long, hard look at the light and try to get it as as reasonably bright. It doesn't have to be crazy bright. These new cameras, again, are pretty amazing. Even your phone has pretty good quality in relatively low light. But again, if the lights are sodium, everything's going to go yellow. If the lights are fluorescent, everything's going to go kind of blue-green, and you don't want green people. You don't really want yellow people. You want nice pink, tan, brown people. So this is an awesome, these $60 IKEA lights with balanced fluorescence in them come out like it creates the same light you spend thousands of dollars trying to get in a photo studio. It's a big, soft light source. You want people to look dynamite? Sit them between two of these IKEA lights with some nice bulbs in them, and it's a dynamite light source. Cool looking too. I think this is a very nice solution. And again, it's a state of mind. You have to really look at what the light is in the room, and that's what you're going to be shooting in. When really what you see in the back of the camera is what you get. So in this room, I would bring in a couple more. I would bring in a desk lamp with a nice bulb in it, and let the room be yellow. Let the person be illuminated by that balanced light. It would look great. We could definitely shoot with 2 hotel lamps, a dynamite video in this room in 5 minutes. So the next piece is, how do you create video testimonials? What do you get people to say? That we have a website where we went to everything became spoken in the word of the patient, and it radically improved patient conversion. The website became so much more compelling. All the social media became more compelling. Everything was a quote. The whole thing started to hinge on social proof and people telling stories, and everybody loves a story. And so I want everyone to think about heading towards that. So the first big secret to great video production is wipe off that filthy, dirty lens. More hazy, crappy videos are because there's a big fingerprint on it. Almost always your phone coming out of your pocket's dirty. Like, keep your fingers out of the way, wipe it off. You're going to have a radically better video. The next thing is you've got to stabilize the camera. A little tripod will improve your production quality radically. The next thing after stabilizing the camera is add an external microphone. Best $60 you'll ever spend in terms of production quality. Like, if you can get good audio and reasonable video, you're well on your way to having a great result. And just by putting your camera in a tripod and plugging in an external microphone that you can buy on Amazon, it's got huge value. The next thing for videos is you're really building a set. You're really looking at your space as if it were a set. So make sure your lights are high quality, and make sure you're setting up a couple places where people look good on camera. There's no reason why you can't take your little camera, turn it sideways, and take a dynamite portrait of a person, where you can take something where someone looks really, really good, and it's about tuning in to the lights. It's about tuning into the room itself, getting people comfortable, and shooting a nice portrait. There's just that before and after photo is just, the clinical shot is not so far from a portrait shot, with a little more thought about the lighting, a little more thought about the set, where they are. And if you can make that person look comfortable and make that person tell an awesome story, that's the stuff that separates practices from the masses. So here is a very classic interview setup. You've got your main light. You've got a second light kind of off to the side. Like, this is a great, and this doesn't have to be, this can be a desk lamp, a little floor lamp, and this is any 3 lights can set this up. It's a state of mind. So as you look at where you're going to be taking these videos and where you're going to be creating this content that's going to ideally really tell your story and be easier to make than any other content because someone else is really generating it, all you need is 3 lights set up in these 3 positions, any 3 lights. So this is another kind of classic setup. This is the one for producing your own video. 2 desk lamps on either side of you makes for a very nice, filled in, reasonable shot. You can put your phone in a tripod. You can use the camera on your computer. And again, these cameras are all pretty much awesome. Like pretty much the cameras that we were spending $100,000 on 10 years ago are now in your phone. And so this lighting setup, if you wanted to make a series of FAQs, it would be easier to record them and transcribe them than to sit down and write them on your computer. And it would have radically more value for the practice, and it would give you some kind of syndicatable content that you could release on your website, on your blog, on your social media for who knows how long. And again, it's about setting it up properly. It's about really looking at it critically and then making something awesome. So if you're trying to get a good patient interview, these are the questions you need to ask. You need to break it into kind of a timeline. You need to tell them to have a start, middle, and end. Like what you don't want is one 7-minute testimonial. What you do want is someone to repeat the question. Well, choosing a surgeon's a big choice, and I looked all around at different websites, and I found Dr. Jones because I really liked his website. And that's how I chose him. Like that would be what you ideally want to get, is little bite-sized pieces, because they're easy to cut off the front and the back, and then you have a standalone video, and then you can string them together to make a longer video very easily. So make sure the person is talking about each little section separately, like day of surgery. Well, on my day of surgery, I came in, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and that's what my day of surgery was. Like that's the setup you want, is to build little easy to assimilate pieces, because you can then serialize those on your website as a series of 7 very short videos, or you can string them together very easily, even with YouTube, to make one long video, and it becomes a very easy, manageable resource. The second piece, more important than any of that, is to get a person to tell a story. That people love stories, that stories are you remember stories. You don't remember facts and slides and anything. You remember things people talk about. So how you get that is you say, is there a time you remember when you felt more confident, or where you really noticed that this surgery was something you wanted to do? Like that's kind of the setup for getting people to tell a good story and talk about their experience. And tell them straight out, like, could you tell your story about your experience since this procedure's been done, and or when you were able to really interact with your kids, where you noticed something at work. That's the best content, is where people start telling a story and it resonates and it has massive social proof. Like if you had a website full of stock photos and then a website full of stories about people's experiences, there's just no competition, right? If you want to really set yourself apart and really have content that is way beyond, an article about skincare, an article about top 10 reasons to get a breast, all that BS. Like if you start to hinge your practice on people's stories, like it's a radical idea. So part 5 is marketing. This is a portrait we shot in the practice. This is a lady standing outside with the sun shining on a big white wall that's behind us. Dynamite portrait, really works well with the before and after. We have the video as well, is really cool. A great example of a portrait style professional after and a clinical before. And again, these are just shot outside in front of big walls at the practice. This is a neat video. This is a still from a video frame. These high-res cameras you can use. A lot of photo shoots were just turning on the camera and letting it roll, and then using stills from that 4K video, because you can print it as big as you want. They're unbelievably high res. Another great example. And here you can really see a video really performing under search and really doing well. It's amazing. And then here's the same thing, video and patient content, easily populating a Facebook campaign, easily helping them to grow their strategy. Really looking dynamite. This is a really cool example. Like check out how this YouTube Like, how cool is that with her moving testimonial? Like, what now if your before and afters all looked like this? How cool would that website be? Like, how groundbreaking would that website be? And it's not the technology you have. The everything's here. Like, I just want to encourage everyone to start thinking about building content and finding the stuff as they have these patients in the office, because what a huge value. It's another great example.
Well, I think depends on what you would like to have it done.
Like, what a nice
I believe
before and after that moves and talks and tells your story.
Not good in everything. It can be impossible. So.
He is knowledgeable. He is what I call the perfect artist, and he's just at the end so passionate about his work. He loves his job, and you can tell it, and he really just becomes a friend after you go through.
The fact that he comes so highly recommended, not just by Linda Carson.
Like, are these cool
but
before and
his other
afters or what?
patients, And he's so accredited in the
And then this is a final one. So this is a personal trainer in town, and I like to go track the person down, shoot them in their environment, get the testimonial in their environment, and have a pro come in and do that for you. But 4 or 5 patients with professional photography and professional videos of them telling their story, it will change all your marketing, and it will hinge your business on storytelling. And stories and people are the most compelling marketing there is. And nothing sells like a testimonial. If I had to go sell anything, I would want to come in with lots of people talking about how amazing it was. It's no different. You know, everyone says everything's referral based. There's no difference between a great video and a true word of mouth referral in the mind of the patient after the fact. So that is how to produce video. That is how to use your camera properly. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me after the lecture, or just track me down at this email, or send me an email. And we look forward to working with you and checking out all your awesome videos and helping you edit them and make them into the best marketing in your market.